We're full of hell.
Alright, welcome to episode 4 of Punks and Pinfalls on the Rockstar Pro Podcast Network. This is GG, joined as always by C-Dub.
Hey.
And last week we had a special guest. We've told you that we're going to have different guests regularly. Last week we had local music journalist and wrestling fan Gary Spencer in the house, and he's back again this week. Hello, Gary.
What's up, everybody?
Not to be confused with Scary Gary, Jackarudu 3, co-host of another one of our shows on the podcast network, Real Alien Talk. Make sure you check that out. Alright, so last week we left off talking about some great concerts that we had been to recently. You had talked about going to Chicago, Gary. I had some great concerts that I went to last year, also in Chicago. Riot Fest, for those who aren't familiar, 3-day fest. It was everything that I always wanted Warped Tour and things like that to be. It was actually a bunch of bands that I would actually care to see. Usually these things you have to suffer through a bunch of garbage for like the one band that you want to see.
And that's why I don't go to them.
But that lineup was chock full of bands from all different genres and crossed several different decades. It was mostly like a punk festival, but then again, it was also Slayer, Jane's Addiction, Weezer. It was just such a varied.
How many stages were there?
Oh man,
it was literally
at least six.
At least six.
At least six. There were.
Damn.
There was 2 different main stage areas.
Was this at the park?
Yes.
There? Okay.
All outdoors in the park, and that was the problem. The first night was awful. We actually left early. I didn't even stay to see Slayer on Friday night because it was pouring down rain. It was a foot of mud everywhere.
Oh. Yeah, I heard about that.
It just ruined the experience, and we saw Murder City Devils, who I really wanted to catch their set. And then we were like, sorry, Slayer. It's not even really Slayer, So we cut out early that day. But then you come back the next day for more great bands all day.
In Slayer's defense, though, about a year and a half ago, they played in Columbus. This is after Lombardo quit and Hanneman died. And I thought Paul Bostaff did a great job filling in on... he was the drummer, I think. But anyway, and they had the guy from Exodus playing guitar. His name is escaping me at the moment as well.
But was Gary Holt playing with them?
Yes, it was Gary Holt. Thank you. And I thought they sounded great.
I'm sure they're great. Great musicians. I'm sure it's a hell of a show.
Good set list, They know what the fans want to hear. They stuck to the classics for the most part, So
I don't know. I just feel like without Hanneman, it's going to be a nostalgia act. Let's see what the next Slayer record sounds like.
There we go.
Well,
are they even planning another Slayer record?
No, they are. They said they said the next one is probably going to be the last one. That's what they say. Oh, speaking of Riot Fest, I've been meaning to ask you about this. How was Sam Hain?
Oh, amazing. It was a religious experience for me because I'm a big Misfits and Danzig fan. For those who don't know, Sam Hain is the missing link. There are punk rockers who love the Misfits and hate Danzig. There are metal dudes who hate the Misfits but love Danzig. Sam Hain is the missing link. Sam Hain was the period between. It kind of sounds like the Misfits and it kind of sounds like Danzig, and it was going a little more metal and a little more hardcore, but it was also experimenting with synthesizers and goth rock.
New toys.
Yeah. It was just I love that period, and I love that material. I love those records, and it was just... I got to see the Sam Hain reunion tour a few years ago when he put out the box set. So
I missed it.
Well, one of the things I like about Sam Hain was I like the Misfits, but everybody knows their recordings are horrible. Most Misfits recordings are just dreadful. So at least Sam Hain, okay, I can actually hear.
Even Sam Hain and Initium, though, kind of sounds like.
Yeah, they're really rough. They're on a budget. That's the difference between Sam Hain and Danzig. People don't realize that Sam Hain and Danzig are the exact same band. He had gotten a record deal with Deaf American, Rick Rubin's label, and he was still contractually bound to Caroline. So he just changed the name of the band to his last name, and they used the same font and the same skull logo and everything.
Well, if anybody knows, I mean, it's like the same band, so.
Yeah, at least initially. I mean, I don't know who's in Danzig these days.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw Danzig when he did the 25th anniversary tour in Columbus at Newport, and I was really hoping he was going to do some Sam Hain stuff, but he did do a 9-song Misfits set.
Yeah, with Doyle.
With Doyle on guitar.
Wow.
And, dude, I have not been... I'm a little... You know, I'm in my 30s. I'm a little too old to get in the mosh pit, but when they played the Misfits songs, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going in the pit. I felt like I was 19 again.
Yeah, that was the closest our generation's ever going to get to see the real Misfits.
Yeah, legit Misfits reunion, yeah. Oh, and who else was it I wanted to ask you about that played Rife? How was the Descendants?
Oh, fantastic. Those guys, again, a lot of old punk rockers. You know, you have... everyone from Cocksparrer to Social Distortion to the Descendants, and so many bands that date back to the early 80s and even the 70s. And these are like old men that still had great energy.
So and Social D, like, who was actually in Social D?
Well, Mike Nessie, whoever.
Yeah, was the band like 17 behind him or something?
Well, no, he definitely had some aged veterans. They were definitely guys that he's probably known for a long time.
Okay.
But yeah, not by no means original.
They just feel like sometimes those guys go out and like the band, like people actually get their kid to play in the band or something.
Oh, we talked about the Misfits. Jerry Only's son is in the live version of Misfits now. One time I saw the Descendants reunion. This was back in the 90s. I think you went with us, Chad.
Yeah.
When it was
the Buzzcocks, wasn't it?
The Buzzcocks played with the Descendants?
I think it was the Buzzcocks, Descendants, and
it may have
somebody
been.
else. But I remember the Buzzcocks. It was the only time I saw Buzzcocks.
That might have been because, like, man, I remember we were hanging out with Rob Ashburn. Hopefully he'll be listening. And we got really fucked up before we even got to the show. And I had earrings.
That's probably why you can't remember if it was Buzzcocks.
No, actually, I had a nipple ring at the time. And check this out. I got in the pit during the Descendants, again, because I'm like a teenager or whatever, I was into that back then. And when I got out of the show, I'm like, I feel like something's cold, like on my chest, like I'm missing something. And my nipple ring was not there, and I don't remember it coming out or feeling it coming out. And I never bothered to replace it, so...
I remember just seeing the Buzzcocks, like 3/4 of the crowd was like overexcited, and 1/4 of the crowd was like, "Who are these? Who the hell are these guys?"
Yeah, it was sad, man. I kind of felt sorry for the Buzzcocks.
They were amazing live. I remember like distinctly they
played a great set list. God, that was so long ago, man.
Talking about the Descendants, I have a couple good Descendants stories. A band I was in was on tour. We were in Colorado. We went and took a tour of the Blasting Room. We were thinking about possibly recording there or maybe mastering our record there. And we take a tour of the studio, and we get to see, where a lot of great records are recorded at, and we're really thinking about, like, hey, I wonder if we can talk the label into putting up the cash to let us work here. And then Bill Stevenson walks in, and the drummer of the band was in the time had a Milo tattoo, and he felt like fanboyish, so he's trying to cover it up, and he's like not trying to not let him see it, and the whole time he's like, "Oh my God, that guy was in Black Flag." And then years later, my band Legbone played with All, which, for those who know, All and the Descendants now are the exact same lineup, except different singers.
It's the same band, isn't it?
Yep. And they even do guest appearance, like Milo sings backup on All records.
And then they both played at Riot Fest.
Yep.
Didn't they?
Yeah,
See, what
they did?
Yeah.
I must have missed it. All was.
Well, you probably save on transportation, hotel rooms.
Well, it makes sense. Yeah. Make a little extra money for 2 sets. What the hell,
A lot of the guys went Drag the River too.
Yeah, that's the thing. All those cats.
Well, hell, that's 3 paydays in 1 weekend.
Well, Drag River wasn't it right?
Oh, okay. So,
all I know is I still worship my copy of Milo Goes to College. That's all. I'm not really a pop punk guy, but I still love that fucking record.
No, it's a great record.
Well, we talked about that when we were talking about our format this week and what we were going to talk about. There was a funny joke on Facebook this week where I was teasing Gary. Because, all of us are into obscure, underground, independent, alternative, whatever you want to call it. Not mainstream music, not music you hear on the radio, not music you're ever going to see on, commercial network television. But Gary especially, actually both Garys, we have Scary Gary Jackarudu and Gary Spencer, our guest this week.
SG1.
Yeah, SG1.
Tron. That's
a street name, a.k.a. Tron.
He's got more nicknames than the Method Man.
But yeah, especially the Garys. they really both listen to a lot of like really extreme music. And I remember growing up a fan of like Faith No More and Mr. Bungle and some of those weird like genre hopping bands. We talk about John Zorn and those kind of like
love Zorn
anti-music, like stuff that's just so far out there. It's like it's confrontational, like it's a hard listen.
Yep.
And
that's my shtick.
you love that music that's hard to listen to, and so I teased him about music that no one cares about. So he started posting all this music that no one cares about, Volume 1, music that no one cares about, Volume 2. So Chad, what's something that you like that none of your friends like? Now, all of us, it's a little different.
Like, you mean like you guys, or like?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. For us, it's a little different because we're all music snobs.
Yeah.
All of us are into kind of weird, obscure stuff. So none of us listen to mainstream stuff. But what's something that you like that even your music snob friends don't like?
What? Oh, shoot! I'd have to. You'd have to come. Let me think about that for a little bit. But I can think of like something I play that I'm a real big fan of the band, but like people who are friends of mine who are not necessarily into indie rock are like, what the fuck are you listening to? I'm trying to think of a newer band, and it's like Deerhoof is one I listen to, and people are like,
really? I think this is really, you're kind of popular.
Yeah, but if you're the average person, and you hear boop, 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 and this girl sing, you'd be like, what the hell are you listening to? So let me think for a second about something.
Actually, I got to cue on this, because we were talking about Zorn just now, and I don't know if anyone listening to it is familiar with John Zorn. He has been making records since like the 70s, and he plays saxophone. But the way he plays the saxophone is not like normal jazz musicians. He sounds like he's strangling a seal. Mm-hmm. And he does all kinds of weird records. Like he has like Jewish klezmer records, and he does like ambient soundscapes. He does classical records, and he does some more straightforward jazz stuff too. But I remember one time, I was living in New York City at the time, and he did this one-off show at the Japanese Cultural Center in Manhattan. And he was joined by other harsh, extreme noise acts like Ai Yamatsuka from the Boredoms.
We talked about the Boredoms on a previous episode.
Keiji Haino was with him. Mike Patton from Faith No More was with him. Aiku Mori was with him. And it was a one-time collaboration show they did at the Japanese Cultural Center. And it was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. It was just totally unpredictable. It was kind of what I expected and not what I expected at the same time. And they never did another one of those. So that was one of those rare, one-of-a-kind events that I can brag about forever that none of my other friends can say they've experienced.
If the wrong person would walk the room, they would have been like, what the hell's going on?
Oh, yeah. If somebody who normally goes to the Japanese Cultural Center there for, like, I don't know, an Art Deco exhibit or something like that probably come in here and be like, like, especially if somebody was a donor, because, they're non-profit organizations. Somebody, I donate money to this?
Yeah.
That's fun. I'm sure that happened to at least a few people. And actually, it wasn't that well attended. There was maybe 200 people there. Maybe.
I remember in New York, too, that There's Some More used to have like an open mic night at the Knitting Factory. There's Some More did.
Oh, There's Some More.
Yeah, like kind of like an open mic. But I mean, he would bring in whoever he wanted to, and they would have like a night thing.
Right.
And one of the people was John Zorn. I had to walk in. It was like There's Some More night. It was John Zorn. There's Some More.
You didn't know Zorn was going
on? No, I had no fucking idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a John Zorn book, and it goes kind of in depth on how he composes his music, and a lot of it's based on like he'll have one album based on like Kabbalah, a lot of like Jewish mysticism and just magic in general. Like it goes really in depth on how what's in his mind when he composes his experimental music.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite Zorn project, though, is a collaboration he did in the 90s with Mick Harris from Napalm Death. He was the drummer, and Bill Laswell on bass called Painkiller.
Oh, yeah.
And it's basically a mashup of extreme jazz and grindcore.
They do a single or an EP or something. I think I have it.
They did a handful of records. Their discography's really weird, but like their first record is called Guts of a Virgin, which actually had a picture of a woman with her guts ripped out. And actually Earache had to censor it in the UK. Or not in the UK, in America. I think. So they did that, and that record clocks in at 19 minutes. It's then their next record, Buried Secrets, is a little longer, like at 32 minutes, where they start weaving in experiments with dub music. It's really cool. Actually, all their records are great, and they have one album that's a live record. It's all one long track with Keiji Haino also guesting with them. And they have a box set now, and even though I have all the records, I would like to have the box set so I have everything in one place.
Are you a completist? Like with your favorite bands, do you have to own like everything?
Yes. Like since you brought it up, right now I'm a big Frank Zappa geek, and I'm in a really big, especially Mothers of Invention, late 60s era Zappa that I'm really into, where I'm collecting as many live recordings as possible because all of their live shows are completely different. And I like to hear the variations they do on certain songs you hear on the records, and even live disc to live disc. They perform things so much different every time. It's just like it's on a whim, and I'm really fascinated by it. So if you're interested in extreme jazz variations, there's 2 recommendations for you right there. The Mothers of Invention from the '60s with Frank Zappa and John Zorn. So there you go.
What about you, Gigi? Something that
music that nobody cares about.
Nobody cares about.
Well, as you brought up on a previous episode, the music that I get teased about liking by my friends is the most mainstream stuff I listen to, but it's usually like hip hop.
What kind of hip hop?
Well, he was specifically teasing me a few episodes ago about like Eminem and like the Detroit like D12 and the Shady Records crew and
I like some of that stuff. Like Obi Trice's first solo record, I think is great.
Speaking of, we're going to go on a little sidebar here. Hip hop.
Yes.
Shady mentioned Young Z from The Outsiders on a new track, and Young Z just responded. And so
I'm totally out of the loop on all this, so you don't have to catch me.
Young Z, The Outsiders. That's like 10 years ago, so they're not like it's not like new hip hop, but these guys are mostly rock guys, indie rock.
My hip hop's like I think I own like KRS-One, Mos Def,
I gotta be honest here,
stuff like that.
The hip hop from the late '80s and especially the first half of the '90s, I think is some of the best hip hop ever made, and I still love all of it. Public Enemy, NWA, Ice Cube solo records. The early ones are great. Wu-Tang Clan. I like KRS-One, 2, and Boogie Down Productions. But I'm more of a West Coast guy. I like Tupac.
I missed their set, but Wu-Tang was at Riot Fest.
I heard that. I was wondering how they were, because I remember seeing them in Columbus, again, in the 90s, and they were missing 2 of them. Who was missing? The Jizza, or not the Jizza. The Jizza was missing, and Old Dirty Bastard.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah. So he wasn't dead yet. I think he was in jail, but don't quote me on that.
For child support.
Speaking of hip hop, at Riot Fest, saw Die Antwoord. There's a kind of a combination of like weird and hip hop and white trash. And I enjoy them because my girlfriend says they give her nightmares. So she wouldn't even go watch their set with me at Riot Fest.
Was it at night?
No, they played during the day.
That's kind of fucked up, though. They play during the day.
That's why I think, I went to Maryland Death Fest last year. Actually, I've been going every year. It's the best extreme metal festival in America. It takes place in Baltimore, Memorial Day weekend every year. And I always find it weird when they have the black metal bands play during the daytime, especially outside.
Now, do you think beforehand, like, they're all like, no, fuck you, I'm not playing before 8 o'clock? No, you will. You put that damn makeup on. You'll go out there in the sunlight, you bastard.
Well, I remember hearing the story of Abbott from Immortal, who one of the second wave Norwegian black metal bands, who I love. Immortal was brilliant.
I call them panda bands because they all look like cute little pandas.
Yeah, I can see that. See, people can tease me about black metal. I'm okay with it because I'm in on the joke and I don't take it too seriously, right? I know some black metal elitist snobs are like, they just take themselves and their music way too seriously.
And if that genre takes themselves too seriously, what happens? They end up dead or in jail.
Exactly.
Oh, you mean like Euronymous? We were talking about him last time. Yeah, and Vard Verkiner said, actually, man, that guy can't stay out of trouble. Like, he's been out of jail for, 4 or 5 years now, and he's still, in and out of the fucking prison system for doing stupid shit. I remember one time he was found when he actually got leave. In Norway, you can actually get leave while you're in prison.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess he didn't come back on time. And the cops found him, and in his car, they found bows and arrows, guns, GPS systems. I mean, just like the most random. What was he planning on doing?
On tour, I spent 5 days in Norway, Bergen and Oslo, and Norway was one of the most craziest normal places on the planet. It was just weird and unsettling for some reason. But yeah, I can kind of see it was a great culture and great place, but it was just something beer and cigarettes, everything was super expensive. There was corn on everything. Never understood that. It rained every day.
Yeah.
But there was a ton of great local artists, but it was just kind of you kind of not on an island, but you were on an island of sorts. So
actually, I think I know what you're talking about. I've never been to Norway, but there's a documentary that Sam Dunn, this Canadian filmmaker, made back into about 10 years ago called Metal: A Headbanger's Journey, and he goes to Norway, and he checks in, and and somebody's like, "Oh, you're a filmmaker?" Because he has all his film gear with him. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm here doing a documentary." He's like, "About Norwegian black metal?" and he shows all the fjords and all the snow everywhere. And, and then there's another documentary that came out 7 or so years ago called Until the Light Takes Us, which is a documentary about the 90s Norwegian black metal scene. And again, they're following Finn Rees from Dark Throne, the drummer, the guys who made Transylvanian Hunger and all the legendary 90s records, which I love, by the way. And they're just following him around town, like he's just hanging out, drinking beer, being black metal,
The handful,
just being black metal,
The handful of things I remember about Norway was, one, going to all the bathrooms, and there was really a light, dim blue light in all the bathrooms. You couldn't see, and you almost pissed on your fucking self every time you went to the bathroom. I finally was like, with some people they were Norwegian, I was like, what the fuck? I can't even take a piss because I can barely see because the blue light. And they're like, no. And we have such a bad heroin problem. It's a law that you can only have like this 3-watt light in the bathrooms. So I was like, that's fucking crazy. Wow. And then I remember we went to a fort, and there was one Buckeye tree. We're from Ohio, so Buckeyes. There was one Buckeye tree in the middle of the fort, and went and got a Buckeye. And they're like, oh, we normally don't have Buckeyes grow here, but yeah. And so I took one of those Buckeyes, and then I remember, like, just the corn on everything, like hamburgers and pizza. And this is how strange, on pizza, and this is how strange Norway was. We were staying above this bar, and I finally went down the bar, and I guess one of the guys local who owned the bar, he earned the money to buy this bar from a song he wrote. They got really big. It was like a Norwegian folk song in like the 80s or something. It was like Your Grandmother's a Nazi was the song. And I was like, wow, you made tons of money off a song called Your Grandmother's a Nazi? And I was like, okay. And so
wow.
I didn't hate it, but it was weird. Like it was weird. And we also were like, before we land, we're like, did we say anything about Vikings, or are they kind of sensitive about that shit? And they're like, oh, no, and as soon as we get there, Viking everything. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
I heard that would be more of a Sweden thing. I mean, with all the Viking metal bands out of Sweden, like Amon Amarth and stuff.
We just don't want to piss anybody off by like saying Vikings, like, don't talk about Vikings, that's fucked up. And we're like, okay, we just want to clear the Viking talk before we started on it. So, and I got lost and found my way by help of the Norwegian Communist Party. Helped me get back to my hotel. So that's my trip.
That's a random story.
Yeah, that was my trip.
Communist Party was very helpful.
They were very helpful in Norway.
Community. Well, let's see, as we go on tangents here, let me bring it back to the sounds that you heard as we were starting this week's episode. Was a live recording of Full of Hell. They're going to be back at Rockstar Pro Arena here in Dayton, Ohio, Thursday, March 12th. They were here once before on tour with Weed Eater and Laser Wolf. They're from the Maryland, Pennsylvania area. Great band. And we ran out of time last week. Gary, you were actually a fan of that band. So
yeah, I as you've probably figured out at this point, I'm a fan of very extreme confrontational music, and that's exactly what Full of Hell is. I mean, they took their performance off the stage at Rockstar Arena into the crowd, getting in people's faces and just making just the harshest noise they could with the 3 instruments they had. And I liked it. It was refreshing. I mean, I'm just like, oh, here we are, we're rock stars, we're pretty on this stage under these pretty lights, and that's not what they're about at all. Their records, if you listen to records in particular, it's just ugly misanthropic noise, and there's nothing pretty or positive about it. It's just like it's very cathartic though in that way. And they recently, actually their most recent record is a collaboration with Merzbow, who's a Japanese harsh noise artist, and that record is amazing. If you want to check out something totally off the beaten path that merges the two worlds of harsh noise and what Full of Hell does, which in my opinion is kind of like a mix of like grindcore and harsh noise. Check it out. It's totally cool.
There was a couple clips of it on YouTube. I did listen. I was like, oh, this is good. I do like this. And
after the last Full Hell show, we went back to my place and we listened. Me and Full Hell did. We watched death matches and listened to metal all night long.
Nice.
Yeah. Full of Hell was very into the wrestling aspect of the arena.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things they were very. It seemed like they were very into their fans. Like they really embraced their fans and stuff.
Which is weird considering like, they seem like their music is so unlikable. Yeah, unfriendly.
They're for last year. They were like one of the shocking bands that I kind of heard of them, but when I saw them, I was like, oh shit. No, these guys are good, So.
They're legit, man, no doubt. So yeah, if you're in the Dayton area or anywhere near Ohio, God, you gotta go see Full of Hell at Rockstar. Yeah. You won't regret it.
I told them how long it took them to like form songs, and they're like, "Oh, it takes us like 2-3 months to write one song."
Oh, I bet, because it's like if you listen to their stuff, there's so much going on. I mean, Again, it's one of those bands you have to listen to records over and over again to really get what they're trying to do. And this record they got with Merzbow right now, I'm still trying to, you know, dissect it. And again, that's the kind of music nerd I am. I like to dissect records and really figure out what's going on. And that's why I tend to prefer more extreme forms of music. It's more interesting to me, intellectually.
Well, it's more complicated and it takes longer to break down sometimes.
And then, you know, and it's more artistic. And you know, I feel like it's more rewarding.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put it.
See, I think my taste rides that line between where, like, I still need a pop hook. I still need something that I can come away humming, something that, like, that a hook, something that I'm going to remember. When a band can take the intensity and the fury of extreme metal or punk rock music, and it's guitar driven and it's fast and it's loud, but it's still at its core rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know, when it gets too extreme is when it starts losing me.
And what I have a problem with sometimes, and especially in this day and age with our technology, what kind of I think sucks is when bands they don't find that medium in the recording process. They don't keep their selves in their core, and they go too much like too many toys in the studio, and they ruin it sometimes by going, let's add 10,000 effects on this, and, and then they kill
It's
that.
a case by case.
Yeah, and when they don't grow, they can't revert because they didn't that fine line in like staying to themselves. And I mean the Danzig record I always talk about. That's the problem. Danzig was great, then he got all these tools and fucked it up.
He had the same lineup and the same producer for years. Same band, same producer for 4 records. Did 4 consistent, strong, classic metal records. And then he lost that band, was no longer on that label and working with that producer. Rick Rubin is known to be very, everything's all tube, all analog. You know, he's very against embracing the technology.
Kind of known for tying your hands a little bit.
Yep, he wants it like old school, purist, like real drummers hitting real drums and real guitars being strummed and, you know, not all samples and things like that. So Danzig wasn't allowed to play with that kind of stuff. So it was like a kid freed in a candy store and he just went nuts. I always wonder if underneath all the mucky muck of Danzig 5, Black Acid Evil, I always wonder if underneath all that noise and
wasn't that the shitty industrial record?
Yes, I wonder if there's good songs underneath there.
I lost his goddamn mind. He just was put in a studio and go, you can use anything in here. Really? I'm going to use it all.
Because as a tried and true Danzig fan, I find myself defending a lot of the later era records because everybody heard 5 and gave up.
You can't defend that record.
You can't defend
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it's terrible. I understand where he was as an artist. I understand why that record happened, but God, it's fucking awful.
Yeah.
One of the most notable things about, Danzig performances was the iconic voice he had. And then on Black Acid Devil, you hear it underneath the most shitty distortion channel you could possibly imagine.
He had a great voice.
Yeah.
Actually, there was just nobody there to say, whoa.
Yeah.
I do understand.
Once he was out from under Rick Rubin, it was just like he just went.
Yeah, he
crazy.
just went overboard with it because he bounced back. Danzig 666, Satan's Child, still a little too much technology for me. There's some samples and some drum triggers and some things, but it's still a return to guitar rock.
I think he learned from it. I think,
and then the records following that were all really good.
Yeah, he learned from it because the fans shat all
over
over
it. They shat all over it.
Yeah, again,
I guarantee a CD holder at his house, he does not have that album on there.
We talk about being a completist in your record collection. I have a Sam Hain tattoo, for fuck's sake. Like, I'm a big Danzig fan. I don't own that record.
Wow.
I did at one
You don't own
point,
that
sold
record?
it off because I don't want to say I have it in my collection. It's a black eye on my music career. It's
if
terrible.
you're a Danzig completist, do you have the Black Aria record?
Both of them, yes.
Record?
He did too, yes.
I didn't know he did too.
Yes, there is a Black Aria too.
By the way, the first Black Aria, I think it's brilliant. Love it. Great.
I think the first
record.
one's better, but the second one's a little different. It's still good. It's still. I think if you like the first one,
Is it Danzig or Rollins that has a legendary story? They have their own tour bus, and no one can use the restroom, like that certain bathroom.
I think that's Rollins that she has his own bathroom.
It wouldn't spread because both of them are prima donnas.
Yeah, they're both tour bus, and like no one's allowed.
I don't know if I remember, but
bathroom.
it was some band was using his bathroom, and he
they
literally
fucking
lost
off the tour.
his fucking mind.
Yeah.
Danzig is a perfect example of like, don't meet your idols.
Oh, I'm certain.
You know, like I love that man's music, and he's been making records I love for like 30 years now. But he's a douche, and I know he's a douche. Yeah. Like, I can separate the two. I know people that they sometimes meet, like, someone in their favorite
He
band.
does wear the fingerless weightlifting gloves. That should be
They'll meet somebody and be like, oh, that guy's a jerk, and then they can't bring themselves to listen to their music anymore. I'm like, I know he's a jerk, I still like the records.
There's certain people, if you met them, you would expect them to be kind of jerky, or it would kill kind of the gimmick. Like Ric Flair, I respect Ric Flair, like, woo, yeah,
Or CM
kid,
Punk, I
what's up?
expect him to be a total asshole if I would ever meet CM Punk.
Oh,
I think it depends who you are. If you're the guy up on his bullshit, taking pictures and shit,
Call him by his
fuck
real
you,
name.
you know.
Oh,
He doesn't want, fuck you know. But if you're just decent, like, give him a little, like, yo, nod, and walk on your way, I think it's fine. You know?
That's kind of what it was like last night. I went to Ring of Honor Wrestling. They did a live event here in Dayton. And by the way, like, I saw them about 3 years ago.
Good crowd?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
About 3 years ago, I went to a live event they did at the fairgrounds. Decent attendance, decent show, nothing to jump up and down about. But last night was totally different. Like, that place was packed. By the time we got there, it was standing room only.
Wow.
And people were really excited. They were really pumped for the show.
Were they there for the show? Or were they for
Alberto?
Yeah, sorry, because his new name.
I'll get to that as well.
Okay.
Also, I think it's the Briscoes are like their moneymaker right now.
That too. But anyway, review of the show. Generally speaking, almost every match was fantastic, and one of the best matches of the night was Alberto El Patron, a.k.a. Alberto Del Rio from WWE, against Roderick Strong. And they had an excellent match, and Alberto was massively over with that crowd.
Were they the last match of the
No,
night?
the last match, the main event was the Briscoes.
So was their heavyweight title was actually because it wasn't Jay Briscoe?
It was the Briscoe. It was a tag team match. The Briscoes against against ACH and Matt Seidel, who was Evan Bourne in
Okay,
WWE.
I was just saying, I thought one of the Briscoes was the current ROH.
He is. Jay Briscoe is the current champion. And, wow, they had a good match, too.
I finally like Jay Briscoe's look he's going for. He looks fucking like the backwoods fucking crazy hillbilly.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely dress him up and put him in the Wyatt family. If you
They cracked me up that they're like the rednecks from Delaware.
That was supposed to be...
I thought that for years. I was like, they're rednecks from Delaware. And then I finally went out, doing work with CZW, and we went to Tournament Death, and driving around Delaware, I was like, all right, get it. This is middle of fucking nowhere. All right, okay, you can't be a hillbilly from Delaware.
I read from a bunch of like spoilers on their websites that the Wyatt family, it was supposed to be the Briscoes were supposed to be in the Wyatt
Not
family.
Luke Harper and Eric
No,
Rowan.
but the Briscoes kind of fucked up, and that's when Luke Harper
And Eric Rowan.
Smart Mark dirt sheet rumors.
Exactly.
Big Brody Lee. I mean, actually, you talk about the middle of nowhere Delaware. Like Big Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper, is from like the middle of nowhere New York.
He was a big CZW star before.
in his circuit, he was fantastic though.
Oh, he was great in CZW. He had killer matches against John Moxley, a.k.a. Dean Ambrose. I've seen him online. He had great matches with Cesaro. What was his name? Claudio, I think?
Elgin and him had terrific matches.
I'm glad you brought that up. Michael Elgin wrestled last night. He looked fantastic, and he had a great reception from that crowd.
Is he still doing the redneck thing?
No. He's not doing
Did
the
he
redneck
cut that
thing.
mullet?
Yeah, he cut the mullet.
Oh, they cut the mullet.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
Speaking of,
he's in a little better shape these days.
Speaking of, not to change gears too much, but speaking of CZW and also Rockstar Pro Wrestling, he made appearances at I saw that Simon Crow they did a little thing on NXT where he did a little. They didn't mention anything, but it was a little like cut in.
Oh, he had like a vignette on this.
Not quite. They said that they were having technical difficulties, and the screen was flashing, and then you see a quick flash of him looking at a computer screen. And anyone who's been to the live events in Florida know that he has sort of this hacker gimmick.
Yeah, he's doing like
And
a hacker,
he's
which
like,
is good because nobody else has really
A hacker
done it in recent.
Yeah, he like hacks in, turns off the lights, and then
that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, in
Actually,
the WWE universe, nobody's really done that. So I know
That
why.
might
So I
be
think it's a
cool.
good like little.
So,
little gimmick.
Ohio's own Sammy Callahan, Cannonball Callahan. We're so proud of him to see OI4K member Sammy
Yeah, but I saw
Callahan.
he finally has his little, and hopefully week by week a little bit more.
Yep, his first official flash, his first official tease of a vignette on NXT television, and so we're looking forward to seeing more and more of former OI4K member. We know him as Sammy Callahan.
CZW, actual Rockstar Pro roster for a bit.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's CZ. I know we're going to talk about it. Rockstar Pro Wrestling has their pay-per-view coming up this coming Friday, 3, right?
Yes.
Is there going to be any CCW guys there?
Yes, of course, our former Rockstar Pro champion DJ Hyde, involved in the big main event, a crazy barbed wire island of death match for the title. He's actually, the owner of CZW.
Right.
And then Bulldozer Matt Tremont, who is 2013 Carnage Cup winner, 2014 King of the Deathmatch. He is going to start being regular roster.
Yes.
We'll see him regularly at our pay-per-views. Another CZW guy. And then another guy who has worked for CZW has also had a run in WWE's version of ECW. The Ultimate Underdog, Colin Delaney, will be in the house.
Mm-hmm. I forgot about that, dude.
Yep, Colin Delaney, Tommy Dreamer's protege.
Probably one of the brightest short runs in WWE ECW.
If you remember, he faced Big Show, he faced Kane.
Didn't Brock Lesnar break him?
I don't know if Brock Lesnar actually had a turn with him or not.
Oh, well. It seems like it was the same time period.
He faced Mark Henry, the Great Khali.
Viscera, Big Daddy.
Oh,
God.
And he eventually formed a tag team with Tommy Dreamer, and Tommy Dreamer kind of took him under his wing.
Oh, that's right. I remember
and
that.
they ended up capturing, was the ECW tag title?
They didn't win the title, but they
Okay.
beat Miz and Morrison in a non-title match when Miz and Morrison were WWE champions.
Yes, and Delaney's been working the indies and stuff, and he's from the New York area, and he really liked Rockstar and says, "Hey, I want to come down." And we're like, "Awesome,
Yeah,
very
we're here at
welcome."
this Wednesday's
Come on down.
Amped and at this Friday's iPay-Per-View 3. So, and then, a lot of people forget that a lot of our regular roster at Rockstar, the guys you see at Rockstar Pro week in and week out, also work for CZW. So, Alex Colon, former Best of the Best winner, he's now 3-time American Luchador champion. He'll be in the big aerial assault match for the Luchador title. It's a big, wild, crazy ladder match. Current champion, Sick and Twisted Zach Spades, will be defending. As long as he is medically cleared, we're going to find out more this week. But as far as we know, Nate Wings he took a real ugly spill in last week's match.
Got dropping his head off from the second turnbuckle.
Yeah.
Kind of like doing was he kind of doing the
Kryptonite crunch?
Yeah, it looked like a Kryptonite crunch kind of thing. Zach Spades had him up for a big crazy move off of the top rope, and they took a real ugly landing, and that's how Spades won the match. And he is once again Luchador champion. But so as long as Nate is able to compete, he is scheduled to be in that match.
I'm sure if he's possible, he's going to be there.
Jeremiah, the Ginger Juggernaut, another former Luchador champion, and the man who first brought the Luchador title to Rockstar Pro, former Luchador champion Remy Wilkins. A lot of fans have said, hey, after he lost the title, he never got a rematch for it. With talent from all over the country, we import talent from everywhere, and sometimes people's busy travel schedules, he hadn't requested his rematch yet. He found out we were doing aerial assault, and he wanted in.
The office is flooded for the most part, getting people scheduled in and bringing them in and out and stuff.
And especially for this pay-per-view, because with the Island of Death, big crazy 5-on-5 tag match, and everybody wants to be in the main event. Everybody wants to be in a big high-profile match.
And this aerial assault with all the Luchador former champions, we haven't really had that here. And they've had it in CZW, and anybody not familiar with aerial assault, basically there's a box placed on the ring corner, and it allows guys to have more of a platform to do more aerial maneuvers from the top ring, and then there's also ladders and stuff. So it's
wow, I want to see that.
It's a lot of high flyers just doing what they do best all at the same time. So
sometimes they'll dangle like a Tarzan rope also in the middle of the ring. As some of those I've seen.
Yeah, really? Yeah, who knows? There's going to be it's aerial assault. It's going to be lots of high flying.
All the competitors are going to be competing at the same time? Is that how it works?
Yes, so far
kind of
confirmed.
like a Texas tornado.
Ah, okay.
Yes, confirmed
sounds cool.
so far.
Sounds really
there are
cool.
5 competitors. The current champion defending against so far 4 former champions who've signed up for it. That was the shtick. That was the gimmick. Any former American Luchador champion was eligible to compete in the match. And it's going to be wild. And then, real quick, let's run down the rest of the card. Benjamin Chimera versus Dark Star Matt Taylor. For the Rockstar fans, they know that they have a history. Taylor led a group known as The Fight. Chimera sort of infiltrated and took over that group until the group turned on Taylor. So The Fight is no more, but Taylor and Chimera still have some business to wrap up. So we're looking forward to that match. True Grit, Bruce Gray. Another big rivalry that's been brewing of late against Mr. Reality Check Big Jim Hutchinson. And then, as we mentioned, Island of Death, Aerial Assault, Colin Delaney will be in the house. Bulldozer Matt Tremont will be in the house. It's going to be a great show this Friday, February 6th. And then some other things up on the calendar. Let's stick with the wrestling world. Our sister company, CZW, they will be having their big event, their next iPay-per-view taping 16, coming up February 21st. That's also the same date that we will have a big concert at Rockstar Pro. Local band Hail to the King, very popular local band. They're changing their name. Big name change party. We're not sure if there's a pre-existing Hail to the King.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm not sure what's going on, but yeah, they're going to be changing their name. It's their last show as Hail to the King. They'll be announcing the new name at the show. The Initiative is doing a reunion show that night. Eternal Void, Believe, When the Tigers Broke Free, and Absent Youth. Advance tickets are only $10, available at rockstarproarena.com. The following week, Saturday, February 28th, my own band Legbone will be in the house with Chub City, Call It December, Yerf, and Pariah. Tickets are only $7 available at rockstarproarena.com. And then in March, in addition to, every month we always have our big iPay-per-view for wrestling, so there will be another big iPay-per-view in March. More about that in the coming weeks. But concerts already on the calendar. Tuesday, March 3rd, Survive This, metalcore from Las Vegas. They're on Epitaph Records. And then Dayton's own The Paramedic is on that show. Again, Tuesday, March 3rd, Survive This. Thursday, March 12th, we talked about them earlier. Gary, you're a fan. I know you're excited about this show. Full of Hell.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, March 21st, Byzantine. That was just confirmed. Byzantine, Saturday, March 21st. Advance tickets, $10. Local band Horlet, already confirmed for local support.
Good band.
And we have to wrap up here in a few minutes. Any other things we want to get in before we're out of time today this week?
I'm excited about the Byzantine show. I think that should be good. And same thing, Full of Hell should be a really good show. I was really impressed.
I do have actually a question. I didn't know Epitaph Records had deathcore bands and little under label. When did that happen?
As soon as it started becoming popular.
It's periods, man. They find a band they can make money off of.
One of the first ones they signed was Death by Stereo.
Oh, yeah, not my thing.
Yeah, that was one of the first
I'm going to just put it out there. I'm not into deathcore or none of that stuff. It's just, no.
Yes, that's the beauty of this when we're doing Punks and Pinfalls. We'll touch on WWE occasionally, but the idea is to focus on indie wrestling and indie music of all different genres. And again, we got a room full of guys that all listen to vomit as far as the mainstream is concerned. All of us listen to weird, off-the-beaten-path music, but we all listen to totally different...
I'm sorry. Michael Bolton and Nelson were two different bands.
Both of them are just one and
and for some reason...
If they made a record together...
I don't think he's being facetious at the moment. Actually, maybe you should listen to Nelson.
It's very possible. You never know with SG1.
That's the good stuff.
A wide variety of music we'll be discussing in the coming weeks. We'll always be talking about the concerts coming up at Rockstar Pro. So again, Spreaker.com/user/Rockstar Pro channel. And we always link everything on Facebook, so just keep up with the goings-on of Rockstar Pro Wrestling, Rockstar Pro Arena. And I think we'll wrap up here, guys. Gary, it's been a pleasure having you here this week.
Thanks for having me once again. I had a good time, discussing music and wrestling with you guys. I mean, two of my favorite topics to talk about. So, yeah, it's easy.
All right. Well, good times, guys. Again, this is Ep.4. We'll be back next week for another episode of Punks and Pinfalls.